The two suspects in the bombing in Oklahoma City have been identified tentatively, and I say tentatively, only as white males. Many people suspected in the beginning a Middle Eastern connection to this bombing, but that has not been proved as yet. Joining us again, this time from New York, is Middle East specialist Marvin Zonas. Marvin, thank you for taking our call again today. Let me talk to you here about, first of all, the indication that Middle Eastern terrorists are not responsible. In fact, I believe one of the suspects has been tentatively identified or pictured as having a tattoo, which I understand would go against Middle Eastern tradition and behavior. What if this has not been done by fundamentalist Islamic terrorists or other Middle Eastern terrorist groups? What does that portend?
Seems to me that the only plausible alternative, if it's not Middle Eastern terrorists, is in fact some American domestic right-wing political action group, and that seems to me to portend something quite serious about the future of this country if we are starting to generate these kinds of terrorists at home.
And what would be especially dangerous about that? Because, well, obviously it would be that somebody else has adopted the techniques and tactics used by Middle Eastern terrorists and taken them to be their own tactics in this country.
I think that's exactly right. I think there's a possibility here that the bombing at the World Trade Center had a demonstration effect, and it's entirely plausible that there were groups in the United States who said, we could probably do this ourselves, no big deal. Simple chemicals, a little detonation device, and we can make our own havoc. And it may very well be that some right-wing group has gone about and done that.
Simple chemicals? How simple?
It seems to me, from what I've been able to tell and from the briefing that was given by the FBI agent in charge of the investigations in Oklahoma City, that these really are chemicals that are around in any farm community, and that may have something to do with Oklahoma as well, but principally various kinds of fertilizers that went into this bomb.
Let me ask you here about Islamic fundamentalists. Don't most people of that persuasion harbor a certain credo of nonviolence?
I think that there are many different kinds of Islamic fundamentalists. It's very hard to argue, or to generalize rather, about the kinds of Islamic fundamentalists there are. The ones that we have seen, however, in places like Iran, Algeria, and Afghanistan have been very quick to use violence to achieve their ends. Most recently, of course, the Islamic Jihad, or the Hamas people in the Gaza Strip, have been very quick to use violence, in Tel Aviv in particular, to try to achieve their political ends, which is to say to end the peace process.
And what about the Muslim community here in the United States? I had a letter today from a viewer who saw this program last night. He was very, very complimentary. And he is a Muslim living in America. He said, you know, it's not easy being a Muslim in America. You're shaking your head no. Why is it not easy for these folks?
It's real hard.
Why?
First place, let's be honest, most Americans have quite negative stereotypes of Muslims and Arabs. We do not view these people as quite legitimate in the same way that people who follow Christianity, let's say, or Judaism are seen as legitimate. Islam is still foreign. The second thing is, I think the great majority of Americans sympathize with the plight of the Israelis, the state of Israel, and therefore these people really look at Arabs as part of the problem and not part of the solution. So in many different ways, I think the American Arab community has really been depreciated and disadvantaged. And here, the leaping to the assumption that these are Middle Eastern terrorists who are Arabs and that these are somehow come out of Islam makes their situation all the more precarious. What's amazing, of course, is that there are now more Muslims in the United States than there are Jews. And this country has to come to terms with the fact that we have a major new monotheistic faith in this country, in terms of this country, and begin to deal with appreciating the power of this faith and the greatness of Islam.
That is a remarkable statistic that you just said very quickly. There are more Muslims than Jewish people living in America. I had no idea.
Yeah, and then it's, you know,
well,
the numbers are
these
growing
people,
very
are
rapidly,
these people
both through immigration and through conversion, and this is a very dynamic faith.
But this is almost an invisible minority within our country.
Well, that's the point. You know, we don't see them yet because not enough Arabs, not enough Muslims have learned how to work American politics, have learned how to work American television and newspapers, but these people are getting very sophisticated very quickly, and you'll see lots of new political action groups in the near future, and these people will be working the Congress just like all the other ethnic groups in the United States.
And by the way, that's the way to get things done in the United States.
That's what they're learning. There's no question. This is the way to make it happen.
We'll be back with Marvin Zonas for a few of you on the toll-free highway at 1-800-952-2788 as time time permits. A little bit later on, security in America in the future in the wake of the bombings at Oklahoma City yesterday. We'll be right back after this for our sponsors and the CBS television stations all across America.